There is a near constant stream of think tanks publishing studies about content in Hollywood, how much diversity is in TV shows on streaming platforms and movies. The recent one that we just came across is about the fact that Hollywood, in the vast majority of cases, casts able-bodied actors to play disabled characters. A new study found that nearly 80% of characters portrayed with disabilities in scripted TV series from 2016 to 2023 were played by able-bodied actors. So this is a problem.
No,
for a lot of people.
It's so not a problem. I was like, I posted on X. I was like, look, you might get actors to care about this. Not even just like disabled actors. You can get like virtue signaling actors to care about this under the guise of authenticity, but the average everyday person who's just watching a movie isn't going to care whether the actor was actually disabled, as long as the performance that they're getting is really, really good.
Well, the only people I think might have a justification to be upset about this are the disabled actors who get passed over.
Oh yeah, no,
for
that's
roles.
it. Like they at least, you understand the gripe, right? But like me and Olivia are watching old episodes of Blue Bloods, and in that David Ramsey plays the mayor, and his whole arc is that he gets like blown up, and then he's in a wheelchair for the second half. Like he's in like 8 seasons.
What about the governor in Walking Dead? Was he actually wearing an eye patch?
Yeah,
I doubt it.
I mean, in the first one that came to mind that you also mentioned was Augie from Covert Affairs, who the actor is not blind because there's flashbacks of him catching a football. You can't do flashbacks of him catching a football.
You could have done that with a blind actor if it were part of the canon, the lore, that he's just bad at football. Okay.
Every time I also think it precludes, because those flashbacks are him like in the military, and I think it precludes him being on the ground in the military.
I do think
maybe during the Biden administration, but
it is impressive for someone with sight to play a blind character, because avoiding eye contact like that would be pretty difficult. That's challenging.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, because you're just, I guess if you're not autistic, your natural inclination is to make eye contact with the person you're talking to.
Was there certain disabilities that like they just were like, we can't hire a non-disabled person?
Well, okay,
like Peanut Butter Falcon, it'd be like kind of obvious. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
So Charlie Cox in Daredevil is not blind, but also doing those scenes would be a hell of a lot harder if you had blind actors trying to do all the martial arts.
He wears sunglasses all the time, doesn't he?
Yes.
Which is,
I mean, not all the time, but
they say that's a myth. They say that that's a myth about blind people, that they wear sunglasses, and only some of them do, but very few. Anyway, I want to get into the details here. So, the State of Disability Representation on Television, an analysis of scripted TV series from 2016 to 2023, includes recent shows like Sex Education, As We See It, and Echo, which is... Echo is about a deaf character, right?
Yes. She's deaf and missing a leg.
Right. It
whammy.
highlighted for portraying disabled characters navigating dating and using wheelchairs.
She's also an indigenous... Like, they went all the way with that character.
Yeah, it was a triple whammy.
Yeah.
In total, only 3.9% of characters had a disability across 350 shows, a disproportionately small number, considering that nearly 30% of the U.S. population identifies as having a disability.
Okay, so what does that even mean?
I don't know what it means to identify as having a disability, other than, you just check something off on a census.
So I'm deaf in one ear. Does that mean I can like half identify?
Well, I think legally you would be disabled.
Okay.
Maybe.
Sweet. So I can go and get an acting role now and be like, you're helping us towards equity if you help me be in this movie.
You got to play like a quadriplegic.
Yeah. Well, of course I got that role. I'm half deaf.
Because of your job, you could actually claim that having only half of your hearing impairs you as a podcaster.
Anytime there's problems with the audio in here, don't worry, guys. It's not my fault.
Yeah. But yeah, 30% seems like a lot. It's probably overrepresenting elderly population in that stat. But of the characters with disabilities in these shows, only 21% of them were portrayed by actors with the same or a similar disability. And this made me laugh. The study also brought in the issue of intersectionality, noting that LGBTQ plus characters were twice as likely to be portrayed with disabilities than characters outside the community.
You know why they're doing that, right? They're checking all the boxes in like one fell swoop, so they
Yeah.
don't have to do it anywhere else.
Yeah, just like
Right?
Echo.
Yeah.
Same thing. They just like add as many minority markers onto a character as possible so that they can, fit the quota.
Yeah. And then you get all the scenes with one character and the rest of the storylines
good.
can be left untouched.
Yeah.
Yeah. In order to combat these low numbers, they recommend that the industry greenlight more stories about people with disabilities by people with disabilities behind the camera. They should adopt authentic casting processes and focus on crafting narratives that feature characters with disabilities without making the disability a focal point.
Okay, so that I actually, for the most part, agree with, which is like great writing back in the day. When you saw characters like that, you didn't have to assume that it was some type of studio note that person ended up in there. Now, it probably was back in the day. Like, it probably was
Definitely,
a studio note of some sort to do that. I forget the character's name. There's one of my favorites is in the show Las Vegas. There's this guy who works in the security office who's in a wheelchair, and he's just portrayed as lecherous. And the actor looks like the actor is actually in a wheelchair and looks like he's having the time of his life portraying this particular, he looks like he leers at every woman.
We have a 20 from Shane H. Wilder. Eccleston had one of the best regeneration lines. Rose, before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And do you know what? So was I. Better than Tenants. I don't want to go.
Pretty sure
Yeah.
Matt Smith's doctor said like nearly the same thing too.
It's like the...
It's just the cheesy thing that they say.
Are they including like autism in these types of things? Because
I
when
bet,
I
yeah.
tweeted about this, everybody immediately went to like Forrest Gump and got to referencing Rain Man or something like that. I don't know if that's like that is kind of portrayed the same way that somebody being LGBTQ would, right? Which is that it has nothing to do with any type of actual disability on their
Right.
person, but something to do with something else, which is a lot easier to fake.
I feel like you just give a character a disability to add texture to the story, the way that they usually on all these Disney shows, like one of the parents is dead and there's no explanation for it.
Yeah,
It's never explained.
Zack and
There's
Cody.
never a reason. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
an adjective.
They either have an absent or dead parent, and it's usually the dad, which is weird. But it's just something they add in there to kind of make it interesting, and it's a... This is not a pun intended, but like a crutch
Yeah.
for the story.
I see that Captain K, I was going to mention it earlier. Yes, Drake at one point took
Yeah.
the job away from a disabled actor
True.
from,
Yeah.
what was that, Degrassi?
But it was part of the plot, though.
And that was the early days of memetics. Last name
Yeah.
walkin', first name never. Those were great memes back in the day.
Yeah, but it was because of he lost his ability to walk in the school shooting, right?
Well, you know,
So that was part of the story.
so they did it. They did it with the Hodgins character in Bones. He was put in a like. I think the reason why it's a problem for a lot of TV shows is it starts to signal jumping the shark, which is ironic
Yeah.
because they're disabled, so they wouldn't be able to jump the shark anyway. But the point is like when you start, they did it with Felicity and Arrow. And then they like wrote their way out of it by way of like some type of, I don't even remember what it was, but the magic of science, she can suddenly walk again. It starts to signal that the writers are out of ideas.
We have a 20 from Aaron P. So, Mary, when is the OF going live? Fansley? As they say in RoboCop, I'd buy that for $1.
Bruh.
Is that even a question?
I mean, we'd have to get to 10 crisis parties to find out if that's what we're talking about here.
I can tell you for 0 crisis parties that there is never going to be an OF, a Fansley, or anything else of the sort.
I mean, you're just giving up if you like rail about OnlyFans the whole time. You're like, well, I never said anything about Fansly.
Actually, hold your breath. Please, hold your breath.
Continue.
I also looked up whether vitiligo is considered a disability, and surprisingly, it is.
Wow.
It's really just a pigmentation in the skin. There's nothing about it that actually impairs you, but it is considered a disability because it affects your confidence.
Oh.
At least from what I
Wait,
could
so
tell.
does that mean me being short is a disability?
Yes,
But,
I would
like,
say so.
Fuck it.
Hollywood,
You know what?
Hollywood
Cripple.
and the fashion world, they have this obsession with vitiligo. Like, you
Yes.
constantly see just even like models for Target or whatever have vitiligo in photos, and it's this another random thing they just kind of like sprinkle in there, like Meghan Markle's flower sprinkles to spice
Well, it's 'cause
things up.
Michael Jackson had lightning in a bottle, so they're just trying to recapture
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, nobody knew that he had vitiligo. He hid it because he
And
didn't
then
want.
just one day he was one of us.
He
It
put
was
on
kinda weird.
makeup to hide the fact
Yeah.
that he had.
The 30% number is not hard to believe either. Like if you've been to Costco, you're like, it's actually probably higher.
Yeah, like the amount of people in at Walmart, like in those mobility scooters. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly, some of those people, I don't know how they walk.
Well, with the obesity epidemic, with a growing elderly population and growing numbers of young children diagnosed with autism and other developmental disabilities, it's not surprising that the number is that high. And then you add on top of that the amount of people who identify as having disabilities
Right.
because it gives you a social cachet
You
to
heard
do
it-
so.
Oh, I got a weird rash. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
ironically, those people are probably disabled just in a different way.
You heard it here
Yeah.
first, ladies and gentlemen. Mary just said, if you're old, you're disabled.
It's-
Well,
fact check
obviously,
that.
like old people have more disabilities than the rest of us.
This is true. Well,
So
yeah.
we have a growing elderly population because of the birth rate decline. That's unironically most of why the number is so high.
I think one of my favorite, you can reset the counter in a second here, guys. One of my favorite episodes of House is when his parking spot gets reassigned to a woman in a wheelchair. And then he starts like pestering her to get his spot back because they move her spot closer to the building. And he's like, she's in an electric wheelchair. And she's like, they moved me closer to the building because I'm in a wheelchair. He's like, yes, the little arm muscles to push the button forward must burn once you get halfway through. And then he bets with Cuddy that she bets him that he can't spend a week in a wheelchair. And the whole thing is him basically, they're just kind of mocking it. And that actress was Wendy McKenna, who played the disabled doctor, who is not disabled. So there you have it.
Well, there was
House
the
is
episode of
disabled.
Seinfeld where George like got a cane and then
Yeah.
they gave him like a disabled
Great episode.
bathroom. It was fantastic.
Everyone say what you will about me not returning my cart to the cart corral, but I've never parked in a disabled spot.
There you go.
Never done that.
You might as well
You
with
just-
not returning the card.
You just shift
True.
the goalpost a little bit, and you'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and guys, just these. It's so funny when when PCC first started, we used to report a lot on these like diversity studies that these colleges all run and do. I imagine that since the Trump administration started up again, there's no funding for anything like this. So
I would hope. But I mean, they still are chugging along. Like these studies still come out
They
on
love
a
it.
weekly, if not daily basis. So no matter what's happening any day of the week, there's a women's summit and there's a new diversity study.
this is true. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.